My name is Nwokedi and I will be moderating today. Yesterday, we explored how to create, configure, and manage identities in Entra ID. Today's section will focus on how to implement and manage external identities, which is part of the Microsoft Identity and Access Administrator SC300 certification exam. As a security engineer, your company once in a while might have the need to work with external contractors or consultants on a short-time project. Today's class will show you how to invite and configure these external identities securely. Before I hand over to our speaker, we have a few housekeeping reminders. Please remember the section is being recorded. Do not share anything that you are not comfortable putting in the public domain. Keep your mic mute unless you're called on to speak. We want to hear the speaker clearly without interruption. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or wait for the question and answer section where you'll be allowed to speak, and we'll be happy to answer them all. It's now time to introduce our mentor of the day. Haladu is a cloud security architect with this expertise and experience across Microsoft Azure, security and DevOps solutions. He has a BSc in computer engineering and master's degree in computer forensics and cybersecurity. Also, he has multiple certifications, including Microsoft Azure Solution Architect Expert, Azure Security Engineer Associate, among others. With some clapping emoji, please join me in welcoming our mentor today, Haladu Abdullahi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nonso. That's really awesome. I couldn't do it more than what you did. All right, guys. Thank you very much for having me. And I think last week I was here with moderating for Ojiji's session, and I'm happy to join you today presenting this a continuation of what Nonso has started, Opeyemi has started yesterday from yesterday's session, which is today's session. As Nonso has mentioned, we'll be focusing on implementing and manage external identities. It's a continuation of creating and managing identities that you have done yesterday. So feel comfortable. I will be having the agenda is we'll be having an introduction to external identities. So we need to understand what is external identities, and we need to understand business to business collaborations. It's a special feature of Microsoft Entra ID. So we need to understand the essentials and how to configure such settings. We need to understand how we can invite and collaborate with external vendors, partners, suppliers, and with their own identities, or they have a separate identity provider that is external to your organization. Sometimes you just don't invite only one person. There may be an event such as this bootcamp where there may be a need for us to invite most of your user accounts and from varieties of different domains and identity providers. So in that case, we don't need to take administrative hours inviting individuals one by one. So there'll be a need to do a bulk onboarding or invite of those users' accounts or guest accounts. So in this session, we'll understand how to do bulk onboarding of guest user accounts. We'll also understand how to configure identity providers, that is different identity providers that are supported by Microsoft Entra ID at the moment. We'll also be going through managing your external identity or guest account lifecycle, which is not different from your usual internal user account. It's the same way you manage your internal user account, which I think you have covered yesterday or so far in various trainings we have gone so far. We'll also understand the governance and security aspect of the external identities, how we enforce security policies and security safeguards for a safe and secure collaboration with your partners, vendors, and suppliers, so that you make sure you are granted access to what they need, and you are blocking the access for them for what they don't need, which is only internal. that is governance and security. And in the session today, we'll also be having some hands-on and demos and some exercises that you may want to do if you have your tenant ready. And then we'll have, at the end of the day, we'll be having a question and answer session where you can throw your questions. Maybe halfway, I may open the floor to question and answer. I will let Nonso take your questions for then open the floor for us. Then I may answer some questions halfway. Then at the end of the day, we'll wrap it up with a question and answer as well, instead of keeping your question. But mind you, if in case you know you're going to forget your question, write it down somewhere so that you don't forget your question. All right. Thank you for having me today. Myself and Nonso will be collaborating today to make sure we explain this informative session for you. Feel free to make it interactive. Like I said, there will be question and answer session. So I really want to make it interactive and so that you have some takeaways and be comfortable and happy that you are here. All right. So those are the agendas we'll be going through. So what are the learning objectives for this training today? At the end of the day, like I said, we should be able to live here understanding or be able to explain to someone what are external identities and their common use. You should also be able to configure collaboration settings within the Microsoft Entra ID admin or within the Entra ID Azure portal or within the Microsoft 365 admin portal. Those are the various portals that you can configure external identities. You should be able to also invite and manage external users. We should also be able to connect the various external identity providers that we have or that are currently being supported by Microsoft, because Microsoft Entra ID is not the only identity provider. We have various identity providers, and as you can see in some various websites, if you try to log into and access such services, you will see that instead of logging in with your Gmail or with the domain of that account, you will see they will give you option to log in with Facebook, with LinkedIn, with Gmail, with Microsoft account. Those are what we're talking about, because those are IDPs, those are identity providers that are external to that organization. So that's what we're talking about, or we'll be talking about today, how to implement that. For maybe you are implementing that for your vendors, for your partners, for your suppliers that supplies goods or services or stationaries to your organization, and you want to give them access to some files, some applications that they may be logging in their time, or they are cleaners that are not part of your organization. You want to give them access to some internal timekeeping or HR applications, but you don't want to create an account, or the organization already gave them account, and you don't want to be managing those accounts. So that's what we're talking about. You want them to come along with their own account from their organization or from wherever they are coming from, and those accounts will not be given access to some services or resources or application in your own tenant or organization. So they will also be implementing the governance, like I said earlier, the policies and cross-tenant settings. Exactly, we'll be also configuring cross-tenant settings. Guys, please keep your mic mute. Also be checking those and see if some guys' mic are on, and just mute them so that we don't interfere with the session. So what are external identities? Based on all the explanation I did so far when we started the session, we already know that external identities are the identities that are outside your organization or your tenant, or they are outside your organization or domain. For example, maybe my organization is, okay, let me use what the organization, the tenant we used last week, I think is Dre Design. That's the domain, right? At Dre Design. I'm using that example. I don't have an organization on my tenant, but let's just use that as an example. Or you are working for an organization called, let's use Sparkle. You are working on an organization called sparkle.ng. Now, you have a vendor that sells laptop to you, or you have a vendor that supplies stationaries. You have a partner that you are providing some banking services to, or they are providing audit services to you. So you want to give them access to some part of your resources, be it application, be it external file sharing, or some directories or some training. It can be a lot of things that you want to provide to them, directories, applications. So files, folders. And you don't want to create account, because when you create account for them in your organization, that is another overhead of managing accounts. You are already overwhelmed with managing your internal staff account. Now you are inviting an external vendor or a partner to your domain. You may want them to keep their own organization account. You just invite them as guests to your tenant or the domain service, where you restrict what they access and you have control. But when they try to authenticate to your service, the authentication service is handled by their organization IDP. That is their organization. The vendor's identity provider will manage the authentication. What you manage is just authorization. What is authorization? You have control over what they can access, where they can go in your environment, what they have access to, what they can see. That's what they can view, what they can do. You have control over that. But the identity lifecycle, you hand it over back to their organization to continue to manage based on their account, because you're not the one that created the account, you're not the one that managed the account. You have, by doing so, you have leveraged yourself, you have handed over the administrative overhead of the identity lifecycle, be it from creation, from password reset, because as an admin, you find it as a pain, or it will become a fatigue for you, always resetting password. So I think there was a feature, I don't know if you have covered in some of the previous sessions, which is under password reset, self-service password reset, that is SSPR, where Microsoft has introduced that in the Entra ID, so that admin will now be taking the administrative task of always resetting password for the users has been now taken off your hand as an admin. Let the user now reset his password at the time he wants. It's just that anytime he wants to reset the password, he may want to authenticate based on what the admin has, the security settings admin has set. I can set it, you need MFA, or you need to authenticate with Authenticator or SMS, whatever we configure as for you, so that whenever you want to reset a password, it will now trigger for you to authenticate with something that is known by you through maybe an MFA or Authenticator, or your SMS or email. It will send an OTP to just verify it is you trying to change your password. In the legacy way, administrators used to be the one resetting your password. But now in the cloud, in the modern cloud and AI era, SSPR is there. Let the user reset his password. All he needs to do is verify he's the one doing it. So the same applies for external identities. You have taken off all those administrators and you allow the user to be able to do it there from his own home tenant. When we say home tenant today, we mean where the user is coming from, where his account is originating, where he's existing, his source identity IDP. When I say IDP, you already know what I mean, right? That is the identity providers. Don't worry, we'll discuss what are identity providers and their types and the ones that are supported by Microsoft Entra ID. Now, so this allows users outside your organization to access internal resources. And what are the type of identities currently supported in the Entra ID? We have Microsoft personal accounts. We already know what Microsoft personal account is. I think you saw me logging into some of my my Azure portal and Entra ID with my Microsoft personal account. If you have Microsoft personal account, it will look like at live.com, at is it Hotmail? Microsoft is on Hotmail, right? At live.com, at hotmail.com. I think all those are owned by Microsoft. So all those are Microsoft accounts. Then work or school account. Work or school account are accounts that belongs to you. Accounts that if you are a student, your school must have given you an account that is at the school domain. Those accounts are school account. Work account, if I'm working for Sparkle, my account will be haladu.abdullahi at sparkle.ng. That's a work account. If I'm working for Microsoft, my account will be haladu.abdullahi at Microsoft. Whatever way, format or convention that they use to create the account. Some organization just use your acronyms. Some organization use your first name dot your surname, or your surname initials followed by your first name at the domain. Anyway, as long as you're working for an organization, some organizations already have work accounts. Some organizations that are very small, maybe small to medium-sized organizations that did not own their own domain, They usually use either Gmail for their work account, or they use Okta and other identity providers. Another type of external account is your Gmail. Yeah, trust me, I use my Gmail to access my job portal or other services. Any organization or any services that I'm accessing online with my Gmail, they have incorporated external identity. That's why I was able to use Gmail to access that services or authenticate. When I try to log in and I provide a password and a username, that password and username doesn't go to that organization authentication engine. Rather, it goes back to Gmail to authenticate. So the token is now verified by the IDP of the organization I'm trying to access their service. They will only verify from Google that yes, the verification went through, that I'm a valid Google user, and the credentials I provided are valid or correct. Then they will now open access for me to their portal or services, right? So social media accounts such as Facebook, LinkedIn, you can be able to log into some services. I don't know if LinkedIn is currently supported in Microsoft for integration with Microsoft Entra ID, but I know Facebook is supported, Google, Gmail is supported. You can integrate them. Now, for enterprise organizations that are very large, let's use MTN, let's use Dangote Group. You can imagine all those large number of staff, organization with large number of staff, that their domain contains more than 2,000, 5,000 internal user account. And now you are their vendor, you want to access services from them. You want to access maybe some customer-facing application that Dangote Group or MTN has designed for you. But remember, you don't have at dangote.com, dangotegroup.com. Rather, you are coming with your Gmail or with your own organization domain, and they are they grant you access to that Dangote customer-facing application or Coca-Cola facing application, because you are a supplier to Coca-Cola, or you are a distributor to them, and they provided you an application that Coca-Cola has designed for their distributors, so that they will fill in their daily sales and statistics, or you can view some metrics and sales and availability of goods that you can access. So that kind of organization that has large domain base or user base or identity base, they are called enterprise level or enterprise grade. So in that case, they don't mostly utilize all these external vendors that external identities that we mentioned. They mostly configure their own identity. They design their own identity that can cater for large scale or enterprise level application or access or usage. So what they usually configure is either a SAML or OIDC. A SAML means security assertion markup language, which is a protocol for authenticating or for single sign-on that is being leveraged by enterprise application or enterprise organization for SSO, for single sign-on. Why it is different from OpenIDC? Why it is different from OpenID Connect? OpenIDC is another protocol, but it is more streamlined towards modern application and cloud application or SaaS-based application. That is application that you can access over your mobile phone, application you can access over the web, that is web application. All these are modern application. They are mostly not legacy application that you have to open them on the desktop, or you have to open them on, mostly those are not really, they are legacy application. So for mostly legacy application that are enterprise, you utilize SAML. Well, for modern application or application that are more streamlined towards mobile application or web application, web access or web application, we usually utilize this protocol called OpenIDC Connect, which is built on the platform OT 2.0 platform framework. We'll get to that, don't worry. So we have two categories of external identities in Microsoft Entra ID. Not in general, in Microsoft Entra ID, we have these two categories. The business-to-business collaborations, which allows you to configure your normal guest users so that you can give them access or limit what they can do within your tenant and within your office applications. Now, if I invite you, maybe you have a Gmail, you have a Yahoo, you have a dredesign.com or your own domain account, and I invite you to my to access my tenant, And on my tenant, I have some files, I have some services such as SharePoint, Teams, Word document directory, PowerPoint, slides, presentation, Excel sheet, spreadsheet for whatever business where me and you are doing. And I want to give you access to only that because there are some files or document or services within my organization that does not concern you and I don't want you to see them. So when I invite your account, I will make sure I configure your access by utilizing B2B collaboration settings. So that's what we mean by that. Now, you can also configure, the second category is external identity for customer-facing applications. What do you mean by that? We're no longer talking about you accessing tenant application within my tenant. Now, I want to give you access to Workday, Monday.com, Jira. Those are not my organization application, but I have a subscription there and I want you to access it. That application is customer-facing application that was not designed or owned by my organization, but since my organization is using it and I'm working with you as my partner and I also have a portion in it that I want you to access, then I will give you access through external identity customer-facing application settings. You can also configure that from Microsoft Entra ID. But you must onboard that application in enterprise application in Entra ID. There's a feature called enterprise application where you can onboard an application and give the application a service principal or client secrets. Well, the application itself needs to authenticate to your domain so that it can now verify use via token. Don't worry, everything is handled by Microsoft in the background for you by using a token, a session token, and then a secret to validate, a secret and a value. And all you need to configure is a secret in the application is integrated to Microsoft by integrating it with the secret ID, client ID, and the secret value. That's it. Every time the application authenticates or someone tries to access the application from your domain, it will now use the client secret to validate and verify that yes, this is truly coming from your domain based on the token and the secret ID that's coming. All right, let's not overflog it here. Let's move on. I wish to ask if there's any question, but I'll just hold on until we're halfway. If you have questions, please feel comfortable to write it down, either on the chat or write it down somewhere so that you don't forget it. Note it down somehow so that you don't forget it. So why are external identities needed? Why do we need them? Why don't I just create a domain for you, an account for you? Yes, I'm the admin for sparkle.ng or for my organization, or you are the admin for your organization, and you are a vendor working for us, I'm a vendor working for your organization. Why don't I just create an account for you? Yeah, there may be a need or scenarios where I just need to create an account for you. But if really you want to utilize a B2B and take the advantage of B2B, Microsoft External Identity B2B, that is business to business for collaboration, where it eases a lot of things that I mentioned earlier, then there's no need for me to create an account for you. Because if I create an account for you in my organization and I gave you, you are external vendor, but I created an account for you and I gave you that account, that means there was a need for me to assign a license to you. If I want you to utilize maybe Outlook, Teams, but is there a need for me to waste money on license if it is only Teams or SharePoint that I want you to access? That is it. You need to access the scenario on what person is trying to access. If this external vendor is accessing some application within the Microsoft Office 365 solution, then there's no need for you to create an internal application or an internal account for that user. But if you are giving access to that user on something different, then you may need to create an account for them, internal account, and then give it to them, assign license to that internal account, where you now be paying for that license. But if truly they are going to be accessing SharePoint, Outlook, Teams, PowerPoint, Access, then there's no need to create an internal account and then give the internal account a license. No. Just give them the external access, then give them access to that application that they need. Boom, they will have access to it. But they may have limited access. By default, external accounts or external identities in Microsoft Entra ID have limited access. Now it is the job of the admin or whoever is given the special role to invite guests or external accounts to now assign the limitation or access limits on what the guest user can access and what the guest user can do Yes, you need to also limit what the guest user can do on your tenant before someone take over your account or start seeing things that he was not supposed to see. Now, why is it needed? We need external identity so that it will reduce the overhead. I already mentioned that earlier in what I said. It reduces the administrative overhead or administrative hours. Trust me, you don't need to start doing SSPR, resetting account password, managing what the user can see, managing the life cycle, checking sign-in logs. Although, yeah, if you configure guest login, you can still configure it. Microsoft automatically has sign-in logs for you to see what they are doing in your tenant, or audit logs to also see what they are doing in your tenant. Yeah, audit logs are there by default. You don't need to enable that. But it really reduces administrative overhead for you, for your admins. It also improves security and reduces any password fatigue. I mentioned that earlier. Password fatigue is whenever is maybe in an organization that I have 1,000 staff. In a day, the admin will receive a ticket that someone wants to reset his password. He may receive 10 to 20 tickets. All these tickets are about password reset. That is a password fatigue. And at the same time, password fatigue can also mean whenever a user account requests a password reset, the user should be able to reset his password on his own without going to the admin. That will reduce a password fatigue also for the user as well, because he's taking advantage. He has the control to reset his password himself without waiting for the admin or creating a ticket, then wait for the admin to take hours until the admin is available or is engaged with another thing. And he doesn't have your time today. You have to wait until tomorrow to just do it. And how many admins do we have in some organization? Maximum of two admins. Maybe in enterprise level organization, you may find 3 to 4 admins, but they may be occupied with other things. So trust me, you don't want to get caught up in password fatigue in enterprise level organizations. It also enables control access to apps. I already mentioned that as well. We need the external identity so that I can control which application I can give access. In my organization, we may have 20 external vendor applications that we are using or internal application we are using, but I don't want you to access everything. If I give you external identity access, I invite your external identity to my organization tenant or IDP. I should be able to control what application you should be able to use that is streamlined for our job, for that, that's streamlined for our collaboration or for that project. I was opportune to work for a bank in collaboration. In my previous organization, I worked for a bank in Canada. It's a very large enterprise bank. And that bank, I can tell you that they have more than 1,000 internal and external applications. They invited my account, and they gave me access to only the application that I need to work for them with. Be it Jira or other things, they only give me access to what I say. But I know that they have more than that applications, but I can only see what they give me access to. Any other things I can't see. No matter how I navigate, I can't see. That means their security team have done a very good job in isolating what an external account can see or do in their tenant or in their organization. You can only see the files or directories or applications that they only give you access to. And within the application, they can also limit what you can do or what you can see as well within the application. They will give you a limited. That is, they are following the principle of zero privilege. They are following the principle of zero trust by applying the principle of least privilege. Meaning, don't give somebody.
Miracle, can you please mute your mic, please? Miracle, right, yeah, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you. So, guys, try to mute yourself. I know sometimes you mistakenly mute yourself, or you join and your mic is on. Try to mute it. Now, as what I was saying, external identities really simplify identity access or application access to what and to the limitations by enforcing or leveraging the principle of zero trust, which is one of the key principles, is least privilege. Assign a limited permission, a limited role that can get the job done for that user. Just assign what is needed. Don't assign excess. If he doesn't need an administrative permission, don't give him administrative permission. Give the person limited access or limited permission. Now, it also supports business-to-business collaboration under the under the B2B collaboration settings, where we can set who can do what you can do in the tenants. That is where we can configure what an external identity should be able to do. An external identity should be able to do in our Entra ID tenant or directory. And it also provides scalable identity for apps that are customer facing. I also already explained that, and I use Coca-Cola and Nwokedi, that are large enterprise, as an example for external identity or for their vendors or distributors or suppliers. That's what they do, and that's what they are doing configured in their tenant. They may not be using Microsoft Entra ID. They may be using their own enterprise-grade IDP that is built based on SAML or Open ID Connect, which are built on the framework of OAuth 2.0, which is the current authentication engine that is sophisticated and in line with the best practice globally. Now, let's move to the next. What are B2B collaboration? So we have been talking about business-to-business collaborations. In Microsoft Entra ID, it allows your one business, that is a smaller business or a larger business that is trying to provide services to you based on a project, maybe a project of 3 months, 1 month, 2 months, and you want those external service providers that are coming to work for you in your organization. You want them to access your application or directory, or they are coming to do audit for you, and you want them to come along with their identities. They are coming from KPMG, they are coming from Deloitte, they are coming from PwC to do audit for you. You don't want to create account for them in your tenant because of all those advantages that I mentioned, or all those pros, cons of you managing the identity lifecycle. Now you are invited by integrating their external account to your own tenant. You are leveraging what we call B2B, that's business-to-business collaboration. It really eases business-to-business, especially when you are using Teams. I can invite maybe in their organization, they also have Teams. I can invite their account and then invite them to my Teams, even if they don't have Teams or they don't have Entra ID as a IDP solution. I can invite their external account and give them access to Teams and then limit what they can do in Teams. Why am I inviting them to Teams? Is because we have maybe created a channel or a group chat where we discuss projects, we discuss meetings with them, progress, or we share files that are within SharePoint, because Microsoft SharePoint or OneDrive is integrated with Teams. So whatever file you share, you can in SharePoint or OneDrive, you will see it in Teams under the files menu. So you invite them to your Microsoft Entra ID domain. Microsoft utilizes this feature called B2B to allow you to configure what they can do, what they can see. If that external guest user can also invite another person, if that external user should be able to see some attribute of or properties or groups or membership of what the other users have. For example, in some organization that their security team forget to restrict or put those measures in place, I was able to see other channels, other groups, which I was not supposed to see if the admin has set the right security permission. Maybe their security policy does not care, or maybe it's just oversight on the security side that they didn't have time to do that, or they don't have a class security engineer or admin that knows about that configuration. Because I'm not saying our legacy administrators that are usually our IT administrators doesn't know, but mostly their expertise is on the external on-premises admin. But in the cloud and or Microsoft Entra ID, you will need to study it. That's why we are here, learning all these new features of the cloud identity providing, where you configure all these security settings, limiting what someone can do, what someone that is external to your organization. In fact, even internal users, you can limit what someone can see or do. Maybe someone from finance can see files that are invoice and other things, but someone from marketing or someone from the IT doesn't, or from another department doesn't need to see what the finance department can see. So you make sure you limit what they can see, or the directories they can see that belongs to finance or HR. The same thing, you can limit what the person in finance can see that should only be visible to IT. But no matter what, there's still a global admin in your tenant that can see everything. Yes, global admin or service admin, they can be able to see everything. That's why you must be careful who you grant global admin or service admin. Those should be the owner of the business or the board of directors or the CTO. Those should be the one having that kind of access. And or you can give it to a service account so that in case there is something that there is a need for a global admin to verify, to authenticate or to validate something, a configuration. Maybe when you are integrating some third-party application, there'll be a need for global admin to be the one that will grant that authentication. Then you can now log in with that service account, then do the integration instead of using a user's a personal internal staff user account. But some organization doesn't observe that security hygiene anyway, so don't worry about it. Now, external users account, when you invite a user, when I invite your Gmail, for example, I'm using Gmail as an external user account. I'm just using that example. Like I already mentioned several external identities already, but let me pick Gmail as a very common one that we have, or Yahoo Mail as a very common one we have. When you invite your Gmail or someone's Gmail account that is external to your domain or your tenant, that account now becomes a guest object. Yes, objects. All account or identities are objects. They become in your tenant, they become an external object. And how do you differentiate your internal user's account from a guest account or guest object? Guest account or guest object is under the user type. In the properties of that each account or that account, you see the user type is marked as guest. Yeah, it is guest. Well, for the internal account, I think it is marked as members or members, something like that. If I'm working for Sparkle and when someone is joining, I'm the admin and someone joined the company and I created an account for him, nonso.nwokedi@sparkle.ng, and I created the domain, because I created the domain internal to our organization tenant. That's an internal account. Automatically, it will assign that user type as member because I use the domain. I didn't invite him with his own Gmail. That's why when you join a company, they don't ask you to give them your Gmail so that they invite you. Then you start working with your Gmail while you're in the organization. Nobody does that except maybe small business that doesn't have their own tenant. But in organizations that are medium to large enterprises, they will create an account for you. When you leave, they will terminate that account following the company security policy of boarding. In some organization, when you are leaving, they block your access, they revoke your sessions, they remove licenses, and they remove it for all group and applications and your licenses and admin roles that you have. They will not remove your account or block your access, and then they will now remove your account. They will not delete it. Why they are taking all these measures is because they don't want to delete your account in case they will employ you in the future, or in case there are some files in your OneDrive or some things, permission that you have that may cause downtime if it is removed. So that's why they're taking all these step measures without deleting your account. In some organizations, they don't care. As the moment you are leaving, they will make sure they transfer all your listen to your manager or somebody that can do your job. They will transfer all your files or share your OneDrive files to someone that will do your job, that will take or you're handing over to. Then they will not delete your account. That is how their security policy is designed, and it is stated in the company policy. That's why they are following that. But everyone has his own best practice. As long as you block access and session or a remove license, the organization is no longer wasting money on licenses, or you're blocking access to that account. You're already practicing the best security global acceptable practice for offboarding. Now, your B2B collaboration allows you to control what application the user can access. I already mentioned that. It also allows you to control which group you can add that external account to. Yes, the same thing you can do to your internal account, you can do it to external account. There's no limitation on what you can access or what you can give the guest user to do. It's just that that user is not coming from your internal account domain, but you can give them access to do whatever your internal account can do. Yes. You can even assign them license with that external account, which is a waste of money, but you can assign them license group. So you can control which group they can see or which group you can add them as members to. You can also add them to conditional access policies. If in case your organization has a conditional access policy, when you try to configure what they can do, where they can go, where they can access your organization tenant from, that is what conditional access policy usually determine. Locations, where someone can access your organization tenant or services, from which location, you can restrict from which location, from which IP. You can also access, limit which application, from conditional access, you can limit which application they can access. You can also limit, you can also enforce multi-factor authentication or set the multi-factor authentication requirement. What are the requirements? Sometimes in my organization, we no longer support legacy MFAs because they are susceptible to attack. One of the legacy authentication that Microsoft has just decommissioned, let's say, decommissioned or has scrapped out recently, last month, was what? Within the MFA, they have scrapped out, I think, within the SSPR, or no, within the MFA, I think, they have scrapped out, and they are encouraging the use of Microsoft Authenticator app and the use of passwordless, that's the FIDO, passwordless FIDO 2, FIDO 2, that is, if you know, those are using Microsoft to authenticate to their laptops. Microsoft Hello, Windows Hello, that's FIDO 2. It's a device to your tenant, straight up device to your tenant verification. Meaning, when you're logging into your computer, to your laptop, a Microsoft Hello will not ask you for PIN, and the moment you enter that PIN, it will now also authenticate you to any Microsoft Entra registered application. That is, it is already taken over your single sign-on, SSO. For those that know what single sign-on SSO means, it means using only one authentication to be able to log into all applications and services within your organization with only one login. The moment you log in one application, if you try to open another application within that same organization that is registered to that same organization Entra ID tenant, it will automatically log you in because it is still seeing your valid token, your valid session. Your session is still valid. So that's what we mean by SSO. So this B2B collaboration settings allows you to have control over all this. You can control what application they can access, which group membership they can see or be added to, which you can also have control over the conditional access policy, meaning you can add them to some certain conditional access where they can be limited or access or granted access to some things, certain application services or directories. You can also be able to set up MFA requirement for that external identity. All this you can also do them for your internal, as an admin, you can also do them for your internal user account. So when a user is trying to access your application, which is external identity, when he supplies at the login page, when he supplies the identity, haladu@gmail.com, and he supplies the password or any of the credentials, authentication credentials. Now, when you are trying to log in with all these authentication credentials, the authentication goes to Google. It doesn't go to you, your tenant. It doesn't go to your tenant and authenticate. It goes back to the home directory or home tenant of that user and authenticate there. It will now authenticate in the home directory or home identity of that user or identity provider of that user. If it's coming from Yahoo, it is Yahoo that will authenticate him. If it's coming from Gmail, it's Google that authenticate, or Google authentication engine that will authenticate him. If it's coming from Microsoft a personal account, it is Microsoft Microsoft personal account identity provider that will now authenticate him. If he's coming from another external identity that's enterprise grade, that is managed by his own organization, it is his own organization authentication that will now authenticate. So what does your own tenant do? It does all this, what I mentioned here, and it also authorizes. And all this I mentioned here are called management or authorization, meaning you are restricting or only authorizing the user to access what you configure for him to only access. So authentication happens in the guest user, home tenant, while authorization and other controls happen on your own tenant that you're giving him access to. I believe we are clear on that one. If you are If you have question, maybe when we're on the 9th or 10th slide, I will allow your question. Then after the question, we can now take 5 minutes break. When we come back, we continue. But for now, let's continue. Just write your question. If you have any doubt, write them down somewhere, somehow, either in the chat or somehow, somewhere, note them down. Don't forget them. Now, how does the guest access or guest user access works? That is the flow, the user flow, or the flow of the guest access from inviting the guest user account down to what he can access or configuring what he can do in your tenant or in your directory or in your organization. It starts from inviting the user account. We'll see how to do that. It's in our hands-on labs or in our exercise, either in the exercise or in the hands-on lab. I think in the hands-on lab 1 or 2, or in the exercise, we have them, we'll do it. So the flow starts with inviting the guest user. The guest user now receive an invitation in his inbox. Yes, we'll go back to his inbox and see the invites he received. Then he clicked and redeemed that invite. When he clicked on that invite, he's doing redemption. He's redeeming. We can also configure as an admin how a user can redeem. That is called redemption configuration. We can also configure that. Don't worry. It's not about all the text today. We'll do it. We'll configure how he can redeem that invite that he got. Either he can redeem it via clicking or by providing some token that comes with the invitation, or via an API. You can configure it via an API. All those are doable. But remember, this bootcamp is for beginners, so we may not go into detail those complex setups, but we'll do the basic ones. Don't worry, we'll see it and we'll do it. And for those that have their tenants, well done. Try to practice it. It is in the Microsoft Learning how you can do it as well. You do it. We'll do it. So please mute yourself. If you have questions, note it down quickly or write it on the chat so that you don't forget, or note it down so that when we're in that question and answer session, you can ask. Now, the guest user account will immediately appear on your tenant directory as guests. It will appear with that account, with whatever name, and it will appear as a guest user type. And now it is left for you, the admin, to assign that guest user to applications that you want him to access, or to the groups that you want him to be a member, and the settings on what he can do as well within your tenant or within your environment. You can also apply some policies, such as the conditional access policy, the multi-factor authentication that I mentioned earlier, and even the time of use. Yes, you can also configure the time of use, what he can use. Configure the time of use when he's using your application, or when he's working for you for this project. For the project duration, the time of use, you can also determine it on what you can do. All right. Collaboration settings. I've been mentioning collaboration settings. In collaboration settings menu in the Microsoft Entra ID Admin Center, or in Microsoft Entra ID in Azure Portal, what we can do there is we should be able to configure who can invite the guest. Yes, in collaboration settings, we can configure who can invite guest identities, who can invite a guest user. Yes, who can do it? Is it only admins? Yes, you can set only admins to do it. That means only someone with admin role in your organization, maybe someone that has global admin, user access admin, what other admins? Purview admin, all those admins. But I think the only admins that can do that is tenant admin. Yeah, I think there's a role called tenant admin. Or is it guest tenant admin, global admin, and user access admin, or a role called guest inviter. There's a role called guest inviter. That role is it doesn't need to be an admin. You can ask whoever you assign that role will be able to invite external accounts. In fact, if you didn't change a particular settings that guest user should not be able to invite guest user, even the guest user you add by default will be able to invite his own colleague, or he will be able to invite another guest account. But if you change it, he won't be able to do it. Your internal staff can also be able to invite guest account on their own. Maybe they created a channel, they are working on a project, maybe someone in marketing, he's working with someone from Salesforce, Salesforce as a business. Now he wants to have a meeting with that Salesforce engineer. They are doing some integration with Salesforce. Then he invited the Salesforce person into your domain. He didn't reach out to the admin to do it. He was able to do it because the admins configured to allow internal users to do it they forget to change it, or they know that's based on policy, they allow internal users to do it. We will see how to do it. We'll be able to do it ourselves as well. Configure those settings, because those are tenant or organization-wide settings. If you configure them, it will impact on all the organization accounts. Now, you can also set domain restrictions under collaboration settings. You can set the guest user permissions. Access reviews. Access reviews is you setting limits, reviewing, does this user still need this access? Who should be able to access? What he should be able to access? Does he still need this access? These are what we call access review settings. That's where you configure all this. Then authorization control. Authorization control is, like I said, which application they should be able to see, what part of your domain they should be able to also be able to see or use, or which part of application they should be able to also use. That's the authorization controls. Okay. Before the demo, we'll take questions. So let's do this slide, and then we'll open the first question and answer session. Then we'll take 5 minutes break and come back and start with a demo before we continue. So invitation settings, yeah, there is a menu in the Entra ID, invitation settings in the external identities. Under the external identities menu, there's a blade called invitation settings. In this blade, or under this page, you'll be able to set one of these options. We'll see it, don't worry. Just remember, but you'll be able to do this. You'll be able to set one of these settings, maybe allow only admins to send invitations. I mentioned that earlier, right? If you check this box or radio button, it's only admin in your organization that should be able to do it. In fact, for me, this is the only thing, this is the one I'll configure for my organization. Only admin should do. If someone wants to invite someone from outside, he should be able to go through admins, open a ticket so that we have it in audit trail. We have an audit trail for it, because if a breach happens, we won't be able to know where it's coming from, because we don't know who invited who from outside. So, like I said, it depends on your organizational security policy. Guys, mute yourself, please. So, allow specific users to invite is another option. When you choose this option, allow specific users to invite, you will now have to have an allow list or a block list. Microsoft Entra ID allows you to create an allow list. You will list some users, including guest account. You can also put some guest account there. But if you choose this option, then you maybe allow some managers. Maybe you can list as some managers or head of department or some directors or some users that you know that they always collaborate with external vendors or supplier or distributors. And you don't want them to always bombard admin, like always come to admin for, okay, can you invite this, our distributor in Adamawa? Can you invite this, our distributor in this new big admin distributor we have in Enugu? No, there's no need for that. Let them be able to invite the guest user. It's just that you can configure an alert whenever they invite, an admin should be able to see it, so that we will know where breaches or where holes are in, because every identity, every device in our organization is a potential surface. It's a potential breach surface or security surface, meaning it can be hacked. Any device, identities, whatever that you have, or networks that you have added within your domain or within your organizational perimeter, they are vulnerable. They make your organization more vulnerable to attack, because they are entries. They are entries to your organizations. Oh, I passed the message there. So you can also configure redemption settings within the invite settings here. You can also set guest access levels. Yes, guest access levels, I think, have been moved to. It has been moved to which part of? I think it has been moved to. We'll see where it has been moved to, but I think it is no longer under invitation settings. You can also manage cross-tenant access. Yes, cross-tenant access has also been moved to its own blade. It's no longer under invitation settings. But anyway, these two are very important as well for managing guest identities. Cross-tenant access means your organization has more than one tenant, and you may want to, maybe yes, for example, my organization will have more than one tenant for B2B and one tenant for internal users. Now, if we configure cross-tenant access, we're allowing the other ease of collaboration between the identities in the other tenants to our main tenants. Mostly, we only allow that for our internal admins, so that for them to easily collaborate and manage on do some other activities on the other tenant, unless it is necessarily needed for the external identities as well. But that settings is there for granted for us by Microsoft Entra ID from Microsoft. All right, so before we go on break by 5:10, let's have a 6-minute question and answer session. Nonso, go ahead. And
thank you for the informative section so far. I think if you have any question, you can raise your hand while I go through the chat. I think we had one question earlier which I responded to. Okay, he asked another one. The first question was, he said, for the IDPs, do companies subscribe to an IDP or is it automatic? How does it work? I've responded to that. Okay, he asked another one. What is Microsoft Entra ID IDP for external user? I think Entra ID is already IDP. I'm not sure what you mean by this question. You might want to speak. Please, if you can speak, unmute your mic and speak so we can understand your second question.
It's Koroma. Koroma.
In your first question, you said, for example, if someone works at HP and they use their HP email to sign into their internal systems. So this is like, this is a member, like this is a user that works in the organization for what you said. So I was asking for an external user. How does it work? Because your answer is based on an internal user. Yes.
There's no separate IDP for external. There's no separate IDP for external identities. It's the same IDP. It's just that it's either that IDP belongs to your organization or it belongs to wherever that external account is coming from. Now, his example he mentioned, for example, you are working for HP and you are not your account in HP, your work account in HP is not an external account, right? But if somebody that is not working for HP but is collaborating or is a vendor to HP, and he comes with his own organization account, remember he's now interacting with two IDPs, your own HP IDP and his own organization IDP. So that's what he was trying to tell you now. He's trying to tell you internal IDP, that is the IDP that belongs to your own tenant as an internal staff, and then it will not be external to any other person that is not from HP. So any IDP that is not does not belong to that domain or that tenant is an external IDP.
Okay, thank you.
How I did not confuse you, Koroma.
Well, I don't know. I'm still thinking about the answer though.
All right. Hello.
Let's say you work at HP, okay, and you employ someone that HP uses Entra, for instance, and you employ a consultant that works at another company, maybe Lenovo, and Lenovo uses Entra. So if this is set up, you can have a B2B collaboration where they use their Dell email address to log into your HP tenant. Do you understand it now? Okay, so you don't need to create a HP email for them. They can use the already existing Lenovo email account to authenticate on your own tenant if you do the B2B collaboration configuration.
Don't worry, Koroma, maybe when we start the
hands-on. So we have to configure the B2B for it to happen.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, now I understand.
All right. Okay, when we get to the demo session, you understand it better, right?
Okay, it doesn't just you can invite can be done based on the configuration that exists. There is a default configuration for invitation, meaning even without any B2B collaboration settings or configuration, you'll be able to invite user Microsoft Entra ID. But in some Microsoft Entra ID is not the only IDP. There are other IDPs that is not Microsoft Entra ID. There is Okta. There are plenty of them. There's even your organization can even configure their own using APIs. They can configure their own. I mentioned the use of or 2.0 platforms, but the use of some protocols such as the SAML and the OpenID Connect protocols to configure your own enterprise grade IDP without leveraging Entra ID or any other external vendors IDPs. So, but you do some settings, but by default, Microsoft already has done the settings for you. They don't want you to go through all those settings that you do on your own when you design your own IDP. If you are the one managing your own IDP that is not Entra ID, you have to do all those settings. But by default, Microsoft has done some settings for you. You understand? So by default, even without doing some setup in my B2B collaboration settings, I'll be able to invite your external identities. But I'm leaving default wide settings. That will leave me porous. So we'll see that in our exercise and hands-on lab. Any other questions, please?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I think ADCG Victoria, you can unmute yourself and ask your question so that we can go on break. Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. You're audible, Victoria.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for today's class. Please, okay. I want to ask a question. We are done with SC 900 pathway and this SC 300. But please, I'm interested in the blue team data security. I don't know, maybe should I continue with this or go for another pathway, maybe like Azure or SC 200?
You mean blue team, the blue team, the defense team?
Yes, I think it's still related to SC 900, and I think I can go from SC 900, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm in the right path for SC 300.
Okay, so no knowledge is West Victoria. Let me start from there. I think that's the only question. You have another question before I start? Sorry.
Someone told me like a job prospect. I have a job prospect as regard data security. So that's why I just want to maximize my time. Like I want to go in the right pathway.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you have free time, you can continue to be on this track. This bootcamp is a combination of the SC 900 and SC 300. But based on the way we designed the curriculum, the trainers, we have a curriculum that we know. We designed it so that we already covered the SC 900 because SC 900 is a fundamental, right? And you need to understand the fundamentals before we start going to deep into a cybersecurity certified cybersecurity architect, which is SC 300, where you can see we're going deeper into configurations, access.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm going.
So I can say, Victoria, it's not a waste. You can also add this knowledge, and you don't need to write the SC 300, but you can have the knowledge, right? So that when you are ready, you don't need to start start learning anew the SC 300. You already have gone through the bootcamp. You just do a refresher and write the certification. But no knowledge is waste. If you have the free time, if you have the free time, continue to be on the bootcamp. If you don't have free time, go ahead and continue to learn your revise the SC 900 part and then write it.
No, yes. Is the SC 900 enough for the blue team role? I think
it depends on the organization. You need to check on the requirement when you're applying for that. Or you need to check the requirement, the job description. Did they say they need SC 900 only?
Yes.
You saw the job description.
No, not only SC 900.
So you need to certify.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, Victoria. You need to certify most of the requirements, most of them, maybe 80 to 90% of those requirements for you to stand a chance against your competitors. Trust me.
Okay.
Let me use Emmanuel. I don't know if Emmanuel is here, but let me borrow him. For example, our Oga. Emmanuel has a lot of certifications. And if Emmanuel is applying for a job that is security-centered job, when they see his certifications that are centered towards security, he will be a top candidate. Why? Because most of his certifications, he has the one that they need and he has the one that they don't need. That means they are about to employ someone very resourceful, someone that has a lot of knowledge about security. So it's not a waste to have extra ones. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But if you don't have the energy and the time, focus on the ones that will meet your job description so that you will be able to scale and get the job. maybe when you're in the job, you now realize you need all other certifications as well. I hope I answer your question. Any other questions, guys? So far, based on what we have covered, any other questions?
Hi, Haladu. I just have one question based on what Victoria just said now. When you were answering Victoria's question, you mentioned something about cybersecurity. Now, this identity and access management administrator SC300, does it mean after completion and probably past certification, does it mean you can apply for a cybersecurity role, or is it just a pathway into the cybersecurity role?
When you mean, Femi, when you mean cybersecurity, you mean the general cybersecurity, like cybersecurity engineer, cybersecurity analyst, roles that say IT security or network security. Let me say, okay. All right. We are supposed to be on break, but don't worry, let me answer, because I haven't taken any questions, so I'm obliged to answer most of your questions. Honestly, I don't want us to go for a 5-minute break where we still have a lot of questions on our mind. And when I come back, we'll just start the demo. So let me answer your question. Thank you
very much, Aladi.
I am from the cybersecurity background. I have a master's degree in cybersecurity and forensics, digital forensics, computer forensics. So I can tell you that if you are not this bootcamp and what we're talking about or training is not the general cybersecurity practice, but it may not be mostly different from it. It's just that you can find some overlap, and then there will be some differences. Now, in the cloud, there is a lot of cloud vendors or cloud providers: Microsoft, AWS from Amazon, Google Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, Digital Oceans, a lot of other clouds. But most of the security for cloud is almost the same. It's just that the management portal or the solutions are different. But if you know how to do your security in Microsoft Entra ID, you should be able to do security in Google IAM. You should be able to do security in AWS Security Console and AWS Guard Duty or whatever. They are almost the same. All you need to do a refresher, go through their learning, watch some videos, or go through, have the portal ready, you'll be able to do it. Unlike the general traditional cybersecurity, organization that doesn't have cloud environment, they still practice cybersecurity. Or organizations that are very large, they still have on-premises where they need to have a security team that still secure the network. Those are network security guys. They specialize in network security. They will be using Nmap. They'll configure Kali Linux and Bob Suite. They will be doing pen test. They will be all over doing everything. The certification they need is not the same as Microsoft vendor certification, Microsoft Cloud certification that we are talking about here. They may need like Certified Ethical Hacker, ECH. They may need like GAIC, that is the global GAIC, GAH, all those defensive and blue team certification. At a point before I got a job within Microsoft, I've been wanting to do those. Now, those are people that are technical in the cybersecurity space. There are people that are not technical in the security space. They are like managers. They are in the security space, but they are like into governance. They manage GRC. You will find the security auditors, those lead security implementer, IT security auditors, those IT information technology, security of information technology and information system security auditors. They write exam like CISA under ISACA, right? I was a member of ISACA when I completed my master's degree from London. I was a member of ISACA, student member then. When I came back to Nigeria, I joined the membership, but I could not continue because I don't have a job and I need to keep paying membership money. But that does not validate why I no longer, because I'm now practicing cloud security in cloud. Or in fact, before I took job in cloud security, I've been doing infrastructure in the cloud. I was managing network, storage, and virtual machine or servers. I was an expert, an architect in infrastructure. Then, because I come from the security background, I then specialize in security as well. But cloud is very wide. There is the data, there is the network, there is the, you understand? So you just choose the ones that you want to specialize and write the certification, practice it, then you quickly apply for a job and you have it, you continue to implement there. Nothing difficult there. What I'm trying to say is Cybersecurity is wide. Cloud security is just a subset or subdomain of it. Yes, please.
Thank you very much for this explanation. Like you even over explained. Now,
Exactly.
so the only thing I just want to know is now, if I'm applying for a job now, that means I will only be applying for cloud security, not just any role under.
Yes, cloud security centered towards Azure or Microsoft. Look for jobs that are Microsoft 365. Look for jobs that say Microsoft 365 engineer, Microsoft 365, or look for jobs that say Microsoft. The moment they mention Microsoft or they mention Azure or Microsoft 365, look for such jobs. Those are the jobs you'll be looking for.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. So any other questions before we go on break? In fact, we are right on time.
Yeah,
19, so.
I think we should go ahead and take the rest of the question at the end.
All right, thank you. So yes, we have done.
Right,
we have done good. Now, guys, let's come back by 5:25, right? Yeah, by 5:25, we continue with the demo and the rest of the training session. Thank you, guys.
Okay, feel free to grab some water, stretch your legs, and get back at 5:25.
Sorry, Nonso. Can
Yes,
you hear
please.
me?
Yes.
You sound like Opeyemi. I don't know. I was confused. I said, this Opeyemi. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Both of you both sound alike. Yeah.
Oh, nice to know. Thanks for pointing that out.
Okay.
All right. See you shortly. we'll be starting shortly once the mentor joins back. If you have your questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. If you want to speak, use the raise the hand emoji as usual, and you'll be allowed to speak during the question and answer section. We also try to keep to time so other people that have other engagements can be able to attend to them while we take as many questions as possible.
Okay. Sorry, guys. The Teams app is misbehaving on my end, so we can continue now. Let me share the screen again.
All right, welcome back.
Thank you. All right. So let's continue from here. So hope you're able to take some stretch and have some water and maybe some questions cross your mind. Please note it down on the second on the last part. Then we can take your on the Q&A session. We can answer some of your lingering questions or doubts. For now, we'll continue because we are limited on time. I think we only have 30 minutes, which I believe should be enough for us, maybe. Now, on the demo, we'll be walking through configuring the collaboration settings that we've been mentioning about. We'll also see how we can invite a guest user. We'll demonstrate that. We'll test a sign-in with the guest user account. We'll also demo how we can adjust permission for that guest user identity that we invited. We'll also review audit logs for that user account and see what the user has done in our tenant. Based on the permission, has he gone beyond what we gave him permission, or was he able to do that, which I don't think he will, if we really set the permissions right or the settings right. So that's what we'll be working through. So how do you invite external users? There are ways to invite external users or external identities to Microsoft Entra ID. This is for Entra ID, not any other identity. So bear that in mind. You can invite external identity from Microsoft Entra ID Admin Center, which I have it here. I believe everyone has this entra.microsoft.com. I dropped it last week in the last week session. I will drop it again on the chat for those that already have their tenants. So you can go to entra.microsoft.com. If it is in free trial, utilize the free trial. If not, then go for P1, P2 free trial for your hands-on or labs. Now, you can also invite bulk users. There are situations that you have, or scenarios that you have a lot of users that needs to be invited at once, and you don't want to be doing them one by one. That's really not so savvy or use of your time. So you have to put them in an comma separated value, that's Excel sheet, but similar to Excel sheet, but it's a CSV, comma separated value sheet, and don't change go through the Microsoft documentation, learn documentation, you'll see how to get the template. Don't change the columns. You can only edit the rows, the values there. You edit the rows to the accounts and the properties, but you are not allowed to change the column. That is the headings. You are not. If you change them, the template Microsoft provided for you will, when you try to upload it to create those external accounts, the template will fail, because it's an automation you're doing. Microsoft has allowed for you to use via the portal. Yeah, you do it from the Azure portal or from the admin center, which is an automation from the portal. Then you can also utilize or leverage Azure Microsoft PowerShell or this PowerShell script. But for the sake of time, and our bootcamp is mostly for beginner level, we don't need to do that, but it's not difficult. All you need to do, have a PowerShell. Actually, if you don't have one, you can install it. PowerShell ISE. Yes, you can see them. I have PowerShell on my screen. PowerShell ISE. Then you write the script, the PowerShell commands. If you don't have one, search online. I think Microsoft should have it for you. So you write the commands here. First, you connect to the AD. You connect to the AD. Anyway, look for the command, and you can also utilize Microsoft Graph API. Is another way of interacting or creating users' accounts using Microsoft Graph API. It can also do it. It can also provision those invitations or new users for you in bulk as well from the Graph API. Another method is to trigger it, automate it via an application in your back end. Whenever a trigger happens or whenever an event that needs, it's just an automation that you do in the back end in your application. Your application will now be sending the invite on behalf of you. Meaning it doesn't require manual intervention of clicking, running from PowerShell or running in bulk from the portal. The application will not trigger based on a satisfied condition. Your application in the backend will not trigger based on your satisfied condition. So these are the ways in which external identities can be invited to your domain or tenant in Microsoft Entra ID. Then we'll also be looking at bulk invitations. How do you send bulk invitation? I started explaining it, but this is more a summary of how you do it. The CSV template is there in Microsoft. You can download it under the bulk invites. Then you edit the template. Like I said, don't edit the headings and don't edit the version, because Microsoft usually update the versions themselves. All you need to do is edit and add the list of all the external identities, emails or IDs you want to invite in a row. Add them in row and set their properties or their examples there. Then upload the Excel sheet to Entra ID under the bulk invites. And if it is successful, to show you that. Now, if it's mostly used for multi-user onboarding, meaning multiple users, more than one or two users that you want to invite, and you don't want to go through the pain of adding each user one by one and sending them invites. So, for example, it's a bootcamp, it's a onboarding, it's a job recruitment recruitment session, and you want to have all the external IDs invited and have access to a certain particular application or directory. You don't want to go through all those one by one adding. Maybe there are 500 candidates or 500. Just collect their emails in an Excel sheet or CSV, then upload it there, bulk, boom, one time. They are all invited. All they need to do is redeem the invites. So I mentioned about configuring redemption, because if you configure redemption, the invite can expire after some certain this or whatever time you set. But if you don't configure it, the invite can continue to remain, and it may not be invalid for a certain, which is a security risk. So you can also configure the email within the template. You can configure the email, the display name that the user will have. That is the display name you want the user to have, and then the redemption policy or settings. You can also set the validation before import. Yeah. Okay, sorry, you don't set that because when you upload, it will validate for you if that template is or the user's it will sanitize and validate, make sure that all those accounts are valid external accounts. There is no any misconfiguration in your template. And if there's error, it will report error per user. You can also configure that to report error per user so that you know where the error is, where there is a mismatch or a correction or mistakes. So that's why it says error per user, because it's a bulk template and it has multiple users within that template, and you don't know where the error is coming from. So that's why you need to make the error per user is very helpful in troubleshooting as well. So identity providers, I mentioned them earlier. We don't need to overdo it here. I mentioned Microsoft Entra ID itself is a default identity provider for you and your organization. For any organization using Microsoft Entra ID, it's a default identity provider, meaning I think in our last week session, we onboarded our domain, maybe my company domain. We onboarded that domain to Entra ID. Now Entra ID has become our organization's IDP by default. Now I'm inviting a vendor that is coming from PwC to our domain to access certain application or certain directory or files or folders. Now he's coming from his own IDP, right? Now the other IDPs supported for integration or for business-to-business collaboration, or other example of IDPs, that's what I'm talking about here, is Microsoft accounts, Microsoft personal accounts. For example, for people that have Microsoft personal accounts, something like at hotmail.com, not at Microsoft.com. At Microsoft.com is a Microsoft organizational account. It's not a personal account. They reserve that domain for their staff. But at live.com belongs to Microsoft. I still have that account, but Microsoft is still my IDP. Microsoft account, Google account at gmail.com. Google is still my IDP. It's your IDP if you have it. Facebook, for people that still have Facebook accounts, I can't remember my Facebook account. I think it's something, my God, I no longer use Facebook most of the time, but I still have the account though. But I can't remember, is it some username, but you can authenticate. If someone integrates his application with Facebook as an IDP, you should be able to authenticate with Facebook. That's what we mean. SAML, that is the security assertion markup language 2.0. That is the latest version, which is in line with the current best practice globally for security authentication on SSO. I think the older version has some, it has some bugs and vulnerabilities within it. So they build it more to be in line with the best practice. But it's still, like I said, it still has its own pros and cons, but it's mostly designed for enterprise grade IDPs, enterprise grade applications, enterprise grade tenants or directories or user management. Then you also have the OIDC. You'll be seeing all these tools. If you're working for a big organization, you definitely be seeing these too being utilized, and your developers, those software developers, will be integrating with each one of them or most of them. Or if you're collaborating with other businesses that want to access your application that you design, be it if you're a bank or a big, large organization, you definitely see your developers working with the security team in collaboration with this, where you'll be configuring some endpoint, issuer, claims, and tokens. Yeah, you definitely be configuring those. So this is open. It's not something difficult. This is open ID Connect, which is in line with the 2.0 framework, which is also the latest one. Most of application website that you authenticate with mostly utilize, they are using this OIDC, which is utilize the 2.0 framework. All right, so let's move on. I've already explained this already in the last bullets. So in the last point, I already explained the open Open ID Connect. Let me write that in chat so that someone that wants to search and read more on it. Open ID Connect. ID Connect. That is what we mean by OIDC. Then SAML. For SAML, we mean security assertion. It uses an XML-based authentication, while the OpenIDC uses the JWT token protocol. It utilizes JWT for authentication between the client and the authentication engine, while the SAML, that is the security assertion markup language, utilizes XML. That is why it is really mostly utilized by legacy applications or desktop or enterprise large grade applications that are still, but SAML stands for security assertion. Sorry, I don't know. I didn't write them in detail, their full meaning, but let me write in chat. Security assertion markup language. So it utilizes XML, which is mostly like HTML, but the XML one. All right, let's spell something wrong. Language, okay. So, yes, as I mentioned earlier, to configure any of this, you may want, during configuration of this by your developers, they will need to configure the issuer, that is the issuer URL, your ID provider issuer URL, the redirect URL, the endpoint, which is the redirect URL, the claims, they will need to configure that as well. And it's mostly useful for business to business or large enterprise partners, business to business that want to integrate, collaborate with their large partners as well. It's a standard-based authentication protocols as well, and it supports enterprise grade federated scenarios. Meaning, what it means by when we mean in identity, when we mention federation, it means a collection of different IDPs coming together to authenticate on your own IDP. That is what we mean by federated. This is, be it you are supporting LinkedIn, you are supporting someone that is coming from someone that has his access from GitHub. Yeah, someone that has access from GitHub. The moment he enter his GitHub credentials, login credential, he can still log into your service or application. So all those conglomeration of different IDPs together is federated enterprise scenarios that we're talking about. So, yeah, the second scenario that we mentioned about is external identities accessing your applications. And these applications can be your internal built-in application or external applications that you subscribe to, but you want them to access. Maybe Jira. My company, maybe we have Jira where we handle documentation, ticketing, and progress report or whatever. Then, and for is for collaboration. So if I'm collaborating with, if a vendor or partner is collaborating with my organization, and we have something that we want to give them access to Jira. Jira is not our internal built-in application, but it is an application that we use internally and want to give them access to. I'm just using that as an example, or Confluence, Jira or Confluence. Then that external identity that we invite to our tenant, we can still grant them access to that application called Jira, or either HR application or any other application, timekeeping application. Now, this particular feature allows you to build customer-facing apps and integrate the external identity to be able to access it, integrate the IDPs. You can now, within that, it allows you to customize the sign in and sign up flow. Yeah, how the user can sign up and the sign in flow as well. You configure it within that. You can also configure the branded pages and logos within this particular settings. You can also customize attributes, add custom attributes, I mean. It also has a feature called Analytics and Insight, where you see how many users, what they are signing in, which application they mostly go to on access within your directory or within your tenant or organization IDP that you're using. So this is what this particular service provides for you. Now, user flows that we mentioned in this in the previous slide, and policies, custom policy. User flow is already Microsoft Entra ID has a pre-built-in simple user flow that is from sign in and sign up for your external identity to invitation to redemption to the account being created or granted guest access, and then to whatever policy or whatever you want to give access, you want access isolation or access assignment you want to do for those accounts. User flow, pre-built user flow has that. Then you may want to customize, meaning the one Microsoft has is too simple for your scenario, or may not have meet up with your particular scenario that you want to. Then Microsoft also allows you to customize, have a custom policy that way you can customize your user flow. You can customize it by, it has this feature called advanced flow. Under the custom flow, you can choose either advanced flow or business logic flow. And it also has a multi-step, meaning all this advanced and business logic doesn't meet up with the then you can also configure it to have multi-step authentication, meaning not only one, you don't only need the external user to have only one authentication password. You require him to maybe have other authentication, to go through other authentication steps for as an addition. So that's what you will see under user flow and policies or custom policies. Now, remember today's training also includes, it's not all about understanding the external identities. We also have to understand how to manage the external identities. Now, how do we manage external identities? In this organization, we can set the settings to be only managed by admins. We'll see where we can put on those settings, or is it that the guest user can also manage those settings? We can also say allow internal user to also manage those settings or those accounts, but mostly for best practice, allow only admins to manage external users or external accounts. Then you can select some selected specific users to manage external account that is the ones that they created on their own, or that have access to their own directory, their department directory only, or administrative unit. Then you can also configure that settings. Now, we'll be understanding how to do those, how to manage this account or how to configure those settings. You'll be able to assign roles to that user external identity. You should be able to add that identity to a group or remove it from a group. You can also set up access, what it can see, what it can do, what application it can access. You can also set up MFA requirements for that account or for external guest account. You can also enforce them under your conditional access policy. You should be also to either disable that account. I mentioned about disabling and deleting account earlier as a security or as a decommissioning lifecycle or account lifecycle for someone that leaves or got discharged from the job, terminated from the role or from that project. Maybe the project lifecycle has ended. So understand that the governance is access review is all about who is assessing this account, or having a periodic audit review or access review of those accounts. That's all about governance and GRC. Who is assessing it? What is he assessing? What time is he assessing it? Why did he need to assess it? Those are the department. Under cybersecurity, those guys are called GRC. In a very large organization, there is a department, cybersecurity unit that manage that. They call them GRC. They are not technical, but they are very always on your neck or checking who has access or revoking them. So they do audit. I think it's mostly the IT audit department, but GRC is very good because it maintain regularly, cycle around regularly to check who's accessing what is it needed or is it not needed, and then they revoke it if it's not needed. So you can automate that life cycle decision flow. You can integrate Azure identity governance with the you can integrate with Azure. It has been separated from that, but I think you can integrate the identity governance where you PIM, that is privileged identity management, for the access reviews and governance of external identities. Mostly this was used to manage internal accounts, but you can integrate it to also manage your external accounts. It also helps with removing stale or guest account, meaning a project has ended with that organization. Maybe the organization is no longer even that vendor is no longer even your vendor anymore. And you will see the external account is still there. Nobody remove it. The governance or access review cycle, if you configure it, it should be able to help you, send you reminders. This account are still there. Nobody's accessing them. So that you not check with the admin or with your boss, and once you have the go ahead, you clear it, remove it, or disable them. Security controls, we already mentioned them, and so I'll be very quick. Security controls you can enforce on external identities, such as conditional access policy. I mentioned them. You can also configure multi-factor authentication or its requirements. You can also configure risk-based sign-in analysis. You will see Microsoft Entra ID has it. Audit logs and monitoring of that account, of external accounts, sign-in logs and reviewing sign-in logs. I think Chinky has done that with you last week. These two. In fact, he mentioned this one as well. So these three. Time of use, I think he also mentioned that as well. Now, session timeout. External identity may be accessing your application. You may need to configure it to time. You may need to configure your organization session timeout or that external identity session timeout, so that when someone is accessing your application, once he's no longer using it for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, let that his session timeout. It will now sign him out automatically. Although in your company, some people will be complaining, why is this always signing out? Even in my previous organization, I think my CEO used to come to me, why is his session always signing out? Because of session timeout. Session timeout, yeah. I intentionally set it so that when you leave your laptop and you went somewhere, because we're a remote organization, and when you leave your laptop somewhere and you just left and your application is there, you are using it and you left it for 15 minutes. Bro, if you leave that application for 15 minutes, let it time out. You don't need to set it based on your opinion. Set it based on the company security policy. And it is in the policy. So, but people will get mad because of fatigue. They keep signing in. So it's a sign, they get tired of signing in. But we have SSO. All right. Cross-tenant access. I made mention of if you have other tenants, that is, you have a primary tenant and then you have some other tenants, and you want to be collaborating between these two tenants. So you can set cross-tenant access under the cross-tenant access, cross-tenant settings or cross-tenant access settings. You can set what you can use set under that settings is you can set the inbound and outbound policies, meaning the in and outs, the trust relationship between those two tenants, the MFA trust, the device trust, which devices, if you list the devices, you list the MFA policy, or you establish some trust relationship policies between the tenants. User synchronization, this is an optional settings. It's there under these settings, but it's mostly optional for, I think it has its own blades. It has been moved from cross-tenant to user synchronization settings. It has been moved, I think, yeah. Troubleshooting external access, yeah. Sometimes you send invites, the person does not receive it. So those are scenarios. I don't think we'll have enough time to go through all that, but you can go through it. Where I see, I'll drop the link. I don't know if Nonso drop that, but we'll drop the link for today's session that you can go through yourself and learn on it. And we'll also drop we'll drop this the slide as well. But definitely you need that link the link for today's session. I'll drop it either in the WhatsApp if I can't find it here on my browsers. I don't want you to see my multiple browsers so that you don't laugh. Okay. So many tabs. Troubleshooting external access. So sometimes common issues that usually comes up when you send invites or when you try to onboard an external identity. Some of the common issues that come is invite is not received by that email or that identity. They will not get the email. So you need to know how to troubleshoot that. Check what is causing the issue. Is it from their IDP? Is it from your IDP? Is it a misspelling? So we check that. Or is it a propagation timeout? Or is there some service event going on? Redemption problems, meaning the user got the invite, it is in his email, but he clicked on the invite, he clicked on the link to accept the invite, but it is not redeeming. So it may be maybe you configure redemption policy, he's not following that redemption policy settings that you configured, or it may be something, technical issue from your IDP or his own IDP. Email mismatch, yeah, mostly a mismatch. You mismatch the email or in a way that you miss a letter or a domain, and you are expecting him to get it, but he didn't get it, or he didn't go. So that can lead to troubleshooting as well. Authentication provider mismatch, yeah, that explained itself already. The authentication provider did not mismatch, meaning I mentioned some supported IDPs currently, but maybe you send it to another IDP, so it's not going. It's not supported. So conditional access blocks, maybe you already configure in your organization, you have an organizational CA policy, conditional access policy, that blocks invites, or that blocks that particular organization, or that blocks that particular network, that particular region. So sometimes he got the invite, but he was blocked by your CA, or he's blocked by his own organization CA, IDP CA. The same also happens in his own tenant. That is his own home tenant. That is the external guest identity you are inviting. His own tenant also has MFA that is blocking him from receiving invites or from redeeming that invites. So you get to understand where the issue is coming from. Sorry. Those are the possible common scenarios that you see during the external identity invite or onboarding. So we'll now start with the first hands-on lab. And I think we only have 3 minutes left on this, but we'll see if we can be able to complete this training in the next 10 minutes, maybe by 6:15, 6:10. Sorry to go over that, Nonso and guys. Maybe I overflowed the issue. So our first hands-on lab will be exercising how to configure collaboration settings, because you don't need to do the collaboration settings before you send the invite. You can send the invite without configuring the collaboration settings. But following best practice, please set the collaboration settings so that you don't invite one immediately and you get compromised, your account get compromised, or your tenant get taken over because he did not follow the first step of configuring the collaboration system, because the default one is a guest user can also invite someone and he can maybe have a lot of access. But normally by default, Microsoft try to make a guest user have limited default access until you give him otherwise access, meaning you give him other wider access, give him access to other roles, give him admin. Then if you give him a bigger role and he took over, fine, you're not in trouble. So make sure you trust that account, you trust whoever is behind it. You have set the right MFA and policy before you give him any admin or administrative role. Now, what we'll be doing in this lab is we'll be opening the external identity, then we'll go to and review and edit. We'll review and then edit the collaboration settings, and we can now configure who can invite guests. That is what we'll do under collaboration settings. We'll configure who can invite guests. Now, let's go ahead and do it. For those that have the environment ready, you can follow along, or if not, then you can watch later and do it. Now, you guys know how to navigate to entra.microsoft.com. I think I dropped the link. I can drop it again. When you come to home, when you log in, you come to home and just come to all these under Entra ID. Scroll down. Is that a search button? Okay, there's a search button. You can search here for what you are looking for. We are looking for external identities. So either you search external identities or you come down under Entra ID and look for external identity score, authentication method, account recovery. I think I found what I'm looking for, external identity. But like I said, you don't need to strain your eye looking for it. Just search for it here and it will take you straight up to this external identities. So under in Microsoft Entra ID Admin Center, just come to external identities. That is one way of looking for external identities. But in this session, what we're trying to configure is collaboration settings. So under external identities, we'll configure First, we configure collaboration settings. So you search for collaboration settings here. Look at it. It's even differentiated from the normal B2B collaboration settings, because this is B2B collaboration settings. External collaboration settings, the one with the gear sign or gear icon. So you click on that. Now, look at what we have by default. This is what we have by default. I didn't configure it myself. If you check your tenant, definitely that's what you also have. Now, the first one here is guest user access. What my guest user that is invited to my tenant should be able to do. Guest user, what can he? So let's see what restriction I'm putting for that guest user. By default, it says guest user have limited access to properties and membership of directory. He has limited. Limited is vague. I don't even know what he has limited access to, but you can make it more strict. Guest user access is restricted to properties and membership of their own directory. I think this is more restrictive. It's more restrictive because he can only see what is within his own directory that we invited him to. He can't see beyond that. But this will allow him to see maybe for others. Guest users have the same access as members. You know who are members, right? When we say members, those are internal accounts. Those are your staff, the account you give your staff. Their user type will have members. Well, guest users that are invited, their user type, under the properties or attributes of that guest object, you will see user type guest. That's for guest account. That's how you differentiate or filter for guest accounts. So I'm going to make it more restrictive so that's what he can see. Now, we can also see configure guest invite settings. This is guest access settings, but let's configure guest invite settings. Who can invite guests? Who can invite guests to my directory or my organization tenants? Anyone in the organization. This is very, very less restrictive, more inclusive, meaning it gives more freedom and which is not in line with best practice in security, right? So if your organization has that, if you just joined the job, please quickly screenshot and send to your boss that this is not in line with best practice. Can we check our company policy and update the company policy so that we can set it to more restrictive or more friendly? If it is, we can start with the friendly, then maybe gradually move it to more security. If your company is more aggressive on security, maybe a bank or a financial organization or organization that takes security seriously, then they will definitely they will tend to put all the settings more restrictive. So for me, this is my personal tenant, so I can keep it default. I can put it less restrictive. I can put it average. It doesn't matter. But for now, for our training purpose, let's see which one we can just be setting just for us to learn. But you can see the options, right? So we can set anyone the organization to have invite, meaning including the guest, the invite, including the external person too. He can invite somebody. Members, users, meaning your internal staff, and users that you specifically add them to your invite list, they will be able to invite, meaning this one now you are now limiting it to some people, restricting it to your internal staff and some specific users that you allow them to invite. To be able to invite. But when you configure this, you have to go and configure the internal users. Now, only user assigned, if I remember I told you, you can also choose this option. Only users that you specifically handpick to be able to invite external users. Maybe they are the head of departments, head of various departments, or managers of various units and departments, so that they can invite partner or vendors that is collaborating with their department or units. You can give them that. Like I said, all these settings are based on your company policy or based on business need. You can also set it to no one in the organization. No one. If you set this, only the admin can be able to do it. Oh, sorry, even the admin cannot do it. Even the admin will not be able to invite guests if you set this. But for our training, I'm going to leave it. I will leave it to this so that it will not block us from doing the invite later. Now, you can also set this, enable guest self sign up via user flow. We didn't configure user flow, but if you configure user flow, you can set this to yes. You will see how to configure user flow here. But like I said, by default, Microsoft has a pre-built-in user flow that we are using. So I don't need to configure user flow. But if your organization has its own based on policy or based on business need, you can configure user flow under user flow. But I will leave it as no, which by default is no, meaning it is just going to be using the pre-built-in or just to be using the pre-built-in, not custom user flow. External user leave settings. Yeah, external user, how do you remove the external user? That is what it means. Allow external users to remove themselves from your organization. I think it's fine. I can allow them, yes, let them remove themselves if they want to remove. I think it's good for me if they remove themselves as well. So I can leave this by default, but if you don't want them to remove themselves so that they will not take away some things and then remove themselves immediately, it depends, like I said, it's per use, per requirement, per need as needed. So
hello, sorry to cut you in. We have just about 6 minutes for the recording to finish. Yeah, so let's get in as much as we can so people can go back to this later. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nonso, for the heads up. So collaboration settings or restrictions. This is restricting how you can collaborate or allow invitation. Do you want to allow invitation sent to some domains, or do you want to deny to some specific domains? You need to specify the domains under your domains. It will pick up from your domains that you added in the domain. Last week, I think we added some custom domain. So you can choose from those domains that you specify, or you are invited or added in your tenant, in your Microsoft tenant here, Entra ID here. It will make use of that. Or you can also allow invitation only to specific domain. But for now, I'll just allow all so that it won't block us from practicing. So if you make changes, please, in Microsoft tenant, Microsoft Entra ID, whenever you make changes, always remember to save the changes. Don't just go away. When you make any changes, click on save up here or down there. I don't know, sometimes they put it down, sometimes they put it up. So click on save. So now it will now be processing the changes up here. So it is now, it says successfully updated external collaboration settings. So I think we're done with this. Actually, we're supposed to do it for only guest invites, but I did for everything. So that is the first hands-on lab. The second one is to invite. So we are going to demonstrate the sign-in flow. We don't have enough time to do a lot of complex one, but we'll just do the simple sign-in flow so that we see. Now we'll send the invitation. Then we'll switch to maybe your Gmail or my Gmail and see the invite in our box, inbox. Then we accept the invite. That is, we redeem it by accepting the invitation. Then we'll try to assign some access to apps or directories or services within the Entra ID. I don't know if we have enough time to do all this, but let's also do this. So how do you send invite there? If you are accessing your Entra ID from Azure Portal, that is from portal.azure.com, and you go to Entra ID, you either search Microsoft Entra ID or you just go to Entra ID, or you come to this menu here and click on Microsoft Entra ID. It will still take you to Entra ID within Azure Portal. But because Microsoft has now, they have partially removed Microsoft Entra ID and created a portal for Entra ID, and they call it Entra ID Admin Center. So I think it's best you'll be doing this from here. Manage your settings as an admin from Entra ID's admin center, which I already dropped the link, entra.microsoft.com or https://entra.microsoft.com. But like I said, there are plenty of ways of managing your Entra ID or setting. You can find it from here. So under manage, you can look for external identities up here. And whatever settings that I did earlier under external collaboration settings, you'll find it here. Whatever changes are made here in external, in the Entra ID Admin Center, you'll see it here. But now we are trying to see how we can invite external guest user. So we'll come to users. We're about to invite an external account to my tenant. So we'll come to users. These are my existing users, but don't worry about them. Click on the drop-down, new users, plus new users. Click on it, then invite external user. This is for a single user. We are not doing for bulk. I'll show you quickly how to do it for bulk, then you do it at your own time. Then I'll type the email. I don't want to use my Gmail. No, so can you give me your account, one of your external accounts? Oyimafu, are you there? Either Nonso or Oyimafu.
Okay, let me give you my Gmail then.
Oh, yes.
Just type Emmanuel.Oyimafu
Okay.
45@gmail.com.
Okay.
Exactly.
So Gmail, this is an external IDP where I'm about to invite someone that is not part of my domain to access my domain tenant. I can type Emma, whatever name I type as display, that's how he will appear. So send invite message, yes. I can customize the message I want him to receive. I don't want to. I can also add somebody to be recipient. Yes, we can configure this in our environment to be whenever someone send an external invite, the admin should be in the know, should be in the CCP so that we know that somebody is inviting someone, so that we can keep track of it. But you don't need, this is optional. This is the redirect URL. It doesn't matter. It's a Microsoft. You can't change this. So you don't need, if you want to configure some properties, which we don't have time, you can configure because I don't have time, I don't want to, but you can see the user type will come as guest. But you can do vice versa. You can convert him to member, which now become internal user. He is going to now have your domain. But I don't want to do that because we're creating a guest. So all these attributes and properties, you can put them later at your free time. You can also set assignment, meaning you want, as you are inviting him, you want him to be part of a group, and he should have a role, automatically has a certain role. Maybe you want him to have user admin, or to have reader role, directory reader role, so that you can view directory, or whatever role you want to assign him, you can put them here. You can assign this role after creating the account. Now let's go straight up without giving access, some permission or access it, and invite the user. So wait, user invitation in progress. Successfully invited user. Automatically it will add the user here. You see, without waiting for the user to accept the invitation, it has already added him, and it is showing here as invitation. The user is added based on invitation. This is external user. You can see the user type says guest. Well, these users are members because they are internal to my tenant or the organization. So this is how to invite user. Now, I don't know, before I ask Emmanuel to switch and share his screen, if he is able to show us that invitation email and how to redeem it, because we have been talking about redemption. Before I ask him to switch quickly, I will want you to see the difference between guest user, because you can see the user type is guest, right? So any user type under all users, any user type that you see guest, that is your guest user or external identity. And the ones that comes in as members are your internal users, meaning users that are part of your staff. And you see that, you see the account identity type. Is it Gmail? Is it, or who has done the invitation? So I was doing the login and invite Emmanuel account. So that's why, and you see the email here. And if I add company, when creating the account, you will see company as well. All right, I was rushing it. Bulk, I mentioned bulk, how to add bulk users. Maybe I have 100, 500, multiple users that I want to invite. I don't want to be doing that one by one. I can now come to bulk operation under all users, in Microsoft Entra ID, users, all users. And then come to bulk operations, click on it, then come to bulk invites. Then you download the templates. The template will be an Excel file or CSV, a comma separated value file. For me, I call them Excel file, but actually they are different from .ex, .xsl, but it's the same Excel that opened them anyway. So you download it, then you add all those 500 or 300 or multiple users, add all the properties that you want them to have, company name, their name, display name, add all those attributes. Don't change the headings. That is the column. Don't change those headings and the version of the file. Then when you have done all that, you can come and navigate and upload it. Look for the file, upload it.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You click on submit. That is how to add users. Then once you click on submit, it will not tell you adding user in progress. Sometimes it takes time, depending on the number of users, but it's faster that way compared to you adding user one by one, right? So they will not all be populated here. and then you can now start assigning. You can now start assigning access for those users. Assign roles. I can go to Emmanuel now and give him access to groups, to applications. If you want to assign access to that user, just go to that user, click on that user, then click on the group you want to add him to, click on group membership, add him to a group. If you want him to access an application, click on application, look for the application, because all applications that you register under your enterprise applications here, you see under these enterprise apps, all applications that you register under your enterprise app in Entra ID, they will appear here. Then you just give him access to the application. If you want to give him a role, assign a role to him under assign roles here. Give him a role so that he can be able to do some administrative or contributor or reader, whatever. That is how to do it. That is all about it. You want to assign a device to him, assign a device. The device you assign to him will appear here. If you want to check for sign-ins or what that user was able to do, you see it here. You see, I didn't even, Emmanuel, that means Emmanuel has accepted that invite. That's what it's trying to tell me, as Emmanuel has accepted the invite. We invited him here at this minute and he accepted the invite. So you can see it's initiated under Microsoft B2B admin worker. And who does the invitation is, look at it, it's Haladu one. That is my account that did it. So that's advantage of audit logs. It will show you what that person has done. Even after you invite him to your tenant, it will show you what he has done. I don't think seeing the invite email is something we should care. You can test it with your own. This, you see the invite. It's just about mentioning you have been invited by this. Do you want to accept? You will accept. That's just it. So I don't want to start telling Emmanuel to share his screen because we're already limited on time. Going back to our destiny, I think we are done with that. It's just a summary, like means a wrap up of what we have done, we have discussed or done. External identities allows us to have a secure way of sharing our application and files and services with our partners, vendors, and collaborators. It also allows us to authenticate externally and authorize within our own tenants. It also allows for us to configure or define collaboration settings and set governance boundaries. It also simplifies external IDPs and it sets a security policy to protect your environment. These are the summary or key takeaways for today's session. We have 3 minutes for question and answer. Please go ahead and ask your questions so that we'll wrap it off at 6:20.
Thank you, Haladu, for that informative demo. If you have a question, please raise your hand as usual or leave your question in the chat. Yeah, please, can we give him a round of applause or use the emoji for the wonderful section and also the demo. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Do we have any question? Yeah, Baba Femi, please unmute and go ahead.
Baba Femi, you're muted. We can't hear you, though. Remember, we are running out of time.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Good.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I really don't have much question. I just want to emphasize the fact that some of us, we don't have access to the chat. I don't know why the chat button is gray and it is unclickable for us. So whatever information you are dropping on the chat, please do drop it on the WhatsApp platform as well, please. Right. Or if there is any way you can rectify the fact that we don't have access to the chat, we cannot see anything dropped on the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Oyimafu also drop
Oyimafu is one that is the admin on this tenant, on this particular bootcamp tenant. So he will rectify it. But trust me, some users has it. Maybe it's a limitation how many users can have access to the chat. But some users normally log in, connect, join, and they have access to the chats. Well, some users will be blocked. Even myself, sometimes I will get blocked from the chat. Sometimes I will get access. So it depends on how you join or how the Teams tenant settings. So you may want to check the global settings for guest invites to the Teams tenant. So 1 minute to go. Any other question or any other concern? All right. In the absence of no question, thank you very much for your time, and we really appreciate your time and for listening. We look forward to see you next week for another informative and educative session. We continue until January. Yeah, we'll continue to do this session. So thank you for having us today. Thank you, Nonso, as well, for moderating the session. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to all the mentors and organizers as well for taking their time out of their busy schedule to support our mentee and also share their knowledge. We appreciate you all. I also noticed some people still need a bit of clarity and career advice. Please make sure to watch the introductory video by Emmanuel, Itoje, and Madam Joy. There are a lot of career advice that are very helpful. If you watch that video, you get a bit of clarity that you need. The record, as usual, will be shared on the group and also the YouTube pages. Follow us on LinkedIn as well and subscribe if you have not. Thank you all for joining today. It's been a pleasure moderating this section. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.